Back when Masters of the Universe Revelation had released, people were furious with what Kevin Smith and the rest of the creatives did to He-Man and how they pushed him to the side and made it the Tila show. But now that reviews are out for Revolution, it's actually going pretty positively for them. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. Now, I want to start this video off with saying, if you in no way, shape, or form want to support Masters of the Universe Revolution, I completely understand. I personally had watched it so that I could talk to you all about it, but I completely understand that Kevin Smith and the rest of the people who worked on Revelation and Revolution have ruined that trust with consumers. But things are actually going pretty decently for them now. This is a Cosmic Book News article. It says Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe Revolution is now out on Netflix, which follows Revelation that came with all the bait and switch garbage and woke content. So what about the sequel? The short of it is that Masters of the Universe Revolution is actually epic, and Smith and company seem to have learned their lesson from the response to the first series. What a third episode! Now, I personally was not initially planning to watch this, but then the teasers and trailers for it seemed to be pretty decent, so I did, and I was actually thoroughly impressed. Is this a 10 out of 10? No. In my opinion, it's not a 10 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it is significantly better than Revelation was. It says, while Revelation was split into two parts with a total of 10 episodes, Revolution is only one single part with 5 episodes, so it definitely seemed like they scaled everything back a bit. They were not sure if things were going to go as positively that they wanted with this series, with the sequel series, but they decided less episodes, but trying to make it good. So that means that they had to nail every episode and they all have to be perfect, and you know what? I think they are. Each episode is action-packed, the animation is great, the music is top-notch, and the story is really well done. I agree. I think that the animation is much better in this. Of course, it does not look wildly different. It's only been a few years since Revelation came out, but I do think that they definitely improved on some of the criticism we had, like with a lot of the armor looking very bland, a lot of the backgrounds not being the best, and it is extremely action-packed. A major episode I had with Revelation is that it was just pretty slow and there was not as much action, and I understood for the first few episodes they were setting a lot up. They had to kind of establish a lot of the story with a lot of conversation, but this one had so much action, which is great. When I'm watching something that's He-Man and Masters of the Universe, I want as much action as possible, and the music is very top-notch. They definitely got some really good, musicians and some really good composers to put together the soundtrack. They did a bang-up job, but it says they did really pay attention to He-Man lore, which, yeah, I also agree with. Now, I wasn't expecting them to correct, what I consider things like character mistakes they made in the first one, like how Andra is still extremely annoying, but they made the best they could, with what they already had as kind of the foundation for the sequel series. I would have liked to see more characters like Duncan in there as well, but you can't get everything you want, especially with the nightmare fuel that Revolutions was a few years ago. There are a few nitpicks that I have, like Granmere, he is a clear copy of Smaug, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but he speaks in riddles, he's cunning, which is only a small criticism, but something I noticed, and the character obviously has a very different alignment since he is a good guy and Smaug was bad, but it is still there. It is something that I personally did notice. And then, of course, you have a star-studded cast here. I mean, the voice actors for this, they really did pick the best of the best. I mean, in Revelation, that was one of the few things that I actually thought was good about it, was the cast they had. Chris Wood as Prince Adam / He-Man, he is fantastic. Mark Hamill as Skeletor. Well, I do not agree with a lot of Mark Hamill's personal opinions that he spouts on social media. I do think he is a fantastic voice actor, a fantastic actor. in general, and I give him huge props for Skeletor. Liam Cunningham was in Game of Thrones. Him as Duncan, it makes sense and it's so good. Such a good casting. Tiffany Smith as Andra. I personally do not like Andra. I am also really not a big fan of Tiffany Smith's voice acting job in this. I just don't really like her. That's my personal opinion. Melissa Benoist, she of course plays Tila now. She's actually married to Chris Wood, and of course, she was Supergirl in the CW. You also have Lena Headey as Evil Lynn / just Lynn. Great, fantastic actress. And of course, I think what is funny to me is the fact that the dragon, Granmere, is actually played by John Delancey, who of course is Q in Star Trek, and I hadn't realized that at first. He did also a fantastic job. Honestly, really great cast all around. And of course, with the, revelations, one of the big complaints I had was that it was the Tila show. And with her becoming the sorceress and so much of that series being about her, going into this, I wondered, because they made her so powerful, how this would actually be, because it didn't go over well previously. And while she's so powerful still and becomes even more powerful, and her sorceress powers are increased in this, I definitely feel like they kept her and He-Man at least on the same level, and many times even still stated that he's the most powerful in the universe, which of course stays in canon, and I'm really glad that they took the time to enforce such small pieces of canon like that because of what we previously got in Revolution. I feel like they actually did try to reestablish He-Man and really respect him in this, but look, let's keep in mind that this was written by Kevin Smith, so we expected something to be shoved into this, and with the ending and the disbanding of the monarchy and the speech about giving the Eternians agency, it was pretty cringe and code for the message, and the delivery wasn't that bad, but it's still there, and we know what he's doing. In the end, they treaded very lightly on the message, and it paid off. Even though you can still see it, it was kind of overshadowed by how decent the rest of the series was. It was full of action-packed scenes and what felt like actual character development, except for the annoying characters, and it came out good in the end. If you don't want to watch it because of what a trash fire Revelations was, I completely get that. I was debating even watching it, but I did, and it was enjoyable. And even though you can find bits of the message, it wasn't heavy-handed, so it seems like they learned their lesson on this one, and they came out, in the end with a pretty decent product. And if they actually decided to make a season 3, I would still be skeptical. I definitely don't think they are in the clear and they deserve, this blind positive following by any means, because the ending was left open for a continuation, so we'll see when and if it comes out. But this wasn't half bad and actually deserves some credit, and I would agree with what people are saying on Rotten Tomatoes. There are some people who are just simply rating it poorly because they hate Kevin Smith now, which I completely understand. He has done a very bad job in the past with these characters, but I feel like he really made up for it in this series, and I do agree with an 84%. It's not a 10 out of 10, it's still not a 9 out of 10, but it's definitely an 8 to an 8.5, and it's something that I would recommend you give a watch to if you still could find some kind of enjoyment out of Masters of the Universe. Well, Kevin Smith, Masters of the Universe, I should specify, and it will be interesting to see if they announce anything going forward, like any kind of viewership numbers, or if they actually are doing another season of this, but it was pretty decent. I'd recommend watching it if you do love Masters of the Universe, you love He-Man, you love all of these characters, and you want to see a really good cast do a pretty bang-up job in a series like this. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.